Hello. Hi, everyone. So, we're going to do an interview today. This is really special. I'm going to be interviewing my friend and previous client, Caitlin Jarvis. And so, Caitlin and I are dear friends, and hi there. Um, we're going to be talking about mindset, body image, navigating the fitness world as a single woman, our own experiences, and insecurities going into the gym in places where the intention is to be physically fit and what that is like. Yes. Oh boy. Hi everyone. So I'm currently adding my friend Kate. We're going to be a really special interview. It worked.
It worked. Yeah, I'm
Love
just
it.
gonna have to set it up with my phone.
Okay.
I'm thrilled.
Thanks for sticking in there with me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank
Um,
you. Let me just see if I
yeah.
can set this up. Is it better if I keep it upright?
Yes. Keep it that way. Okay. So, um, Megan with Tigress Nutrition and Mindset Coaching here. I have a very special guest on here today. This is Caitlin Jarvis. She's a medical intuitive and health coach. She was in the healthcare industry for 13 years as a registered nurse, then a nurse practitioner. She's got her doctorate in nursing practice, which is amazing. Put a lot of and you work with professional helpers, so helping them release the overwhelm and prioritize their health, their mind, body, and spirit. Welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Yes. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm thrilled we worked out the technological issues.
Yes.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Absolutely. I'm
So,
determined.
yeah, I love it. My phone's being a little, you guys might see me mess with it a little bit here just to make sure it stays charged and
Okay.
it gets good service.
Great. Okay, so let's just jump right in. Today we're talking about a lot of really cool topics. We're going to be talking about positive body image, unstoppable mindset, and how to navigate the fitness world as a single woman. And we're going to be talking a lot about our experiences we've had, and like how can one navigate that, no matter what their body looks like. How can we just start? So I'm really excited to talk about all these topics with you because we're both health coaches and both in the health and wellness world. So a lot of great experience, empathy, service related, like heart centered content coming at you guys. So this is going to be a juicy one. Hope you can grab your water, your tea, and let's dive in. So this interview was actually inspired by a conversation Caitlin and I had last week. And we were talking a little bit about her experience with a fitness gym and jumping into some fitness goals. Do you want to tell the story? I'm
Yeah.
shocked and surprised, and just dive right in.
Yeah, let's go for it. So, yeah, it was just interesting. So, I've tried a few different gyms maybe over the last year, trying to find a place that was a really good fit for me. And I had a couple different experiences that I was telling you about and that I'll talk about now. So, one of them most recently was a pretty good experience. So I was being onboarded at a gym. So that included like they were taking my weight. They did like a body fat percentage thing where, you know, it's not super accurate, but just where it uses the electronic signal through your hands. And
Okay.
he mentioned to me that my body fat percentage was high. And I think at another time, I would have felt embarrassed. I would have felt ashamed. I would have
Mhm.
felt like, oh, well, good. That's why I'm here. I'm going to like change that. And instead, I just kind of this time around was like, oh, okay. Like, I get it. I know that I come from a health care background. Like, I know the BMI and the body fat percentages. Um,
Yeah.
and so I get what he's saying. Like, like, I just was like, okay, whatever. Like, that's not really part of my reality. Like, I know what I'm here to do. I want to be fit. I want to get strong. And
Yeah.
there's certainly ways for me to step up my fitness game. Like, I've been doing some things, but I haven't been doing other things that I've been wanting to do. So that's always constantly improving. But it was a different experience for me to kind of have someone say that, you know, and for me to not judge myself for it. And I was contrasting that with this experience that I had at a different gym a little further back. And their onboarding was like, there was a lot of pressure. I really didn't enjoy it. And one of the main things they did when they were onboarding was they whipped out a binder and opened it, had these pictures of all different women standing in swimsuits at different weights, from like very, very skinny and muscular to like much more extra, you know, like much more weight. And they asked me to point out which one I thought I was at and which one I wanted to be at. And it was just really bizarre. And I was kind of so caught off guard that I think, you know, I remember specifically like not choosing the like skinniest, like most muscular one, because I'm like, fuck you guys, I'm not choosing the one you think I want to choose, or the one you want me to choose, or whatever. I feel like I chose like, you know, whatever, like in the middle, like normal one. But it was just a bizarre experience, and I was caught off guard. And like now looking back at it, I actually feel like it was kind of offensive and just weird. And I was like, do they do this for the men? Like, or do they just do this for women? I don't know. Maybe they do, but it just felt really bizarre.
So were you able to have any sort of conversation with, I don't know if it was a trainer, like the gym owner who was like opening this binder? Were you able to like ask many of these questions? Or, you know, I've had that experience too, where you're sort of like so shocked that like, you know, this thinking, this critical thinking is happening after the fact. Did you get to like create a dialogue?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, and I didn't feel very empowered there, which is why I didn't join that gym, was because I felt really disempowered actually, for like in a lot of different ways. But no, and I think if I was at where I am now, I probably would speak up and say something a little bit, even if just to tell them it was bizarre. And I don't know, it's crossed my mind to like, you know, go back now and be like, hey, you guys, it's not coming across super well. But for me, I just chose to like vote with my dollar, and I just didn't join that gym and went somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I was shocked when you told me that too. I was like, gosh, that's like really outdated. And, you know, you and I are similar in the fact that we surround ourselves with like open-minded, like positive, change-oriented women who are like really coming at this from a grassroots movement, have like cultivated the proper language and the mindset and practicing inclusion. And, you know, it's like I sort of get whiplash every time I'm like, oh gosh, like this isn't widely accepted yet. And, you know, it's like I'm constantly, so, yeah.
Exactly. And I think, I mean, the other thing I noticed, and I've just kind of come around to this maybe in the last year, was I realized in the last year, I really want to work out because I want to feel strong and because I want to feel fit. And in the past, it has been more about just how I look or how I'm perceived by other people and how I look. And it's less about that now for me. And so I think that was what was really shocking in that experience, was that it was only about how I looked. And I feel like I had already even told them, oh, I want to train for a marathon or a triathlon, or I'm into like training for events. But they still just brought it back to like, okay, but here's these like weird pictures of women, and which one do you want to be? And it's not the one that you're already at, like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's everywhere. You know, it's like, you know, commercials and like even other gyms will do this. Like, it's like they've like oiled up these women and like they look so good. Like, it's not the reality where you're like, you know, you've got your like sweat stains and your t-shirt and like you're like, you know, you're cut off yoga pants and you're like, your legs need to be shaved. You know, it's like you're just trying to get to the gym, you know, and it's like, it's this like glamorous, and it makes me upset because it then becomes a barrier of like, gosh, I can't even like, my hair is greasy, I I feel like I need to get ready before I can go to the gym. And it's like, why would you do that? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's not the
So
kind of gym I want to be at if I have to get ready to go there. No.
exactly. Exactly.
Least amount of obstacles possible.
Exactly. Yeah,
Totally.
I tell my clients that all the time, right? So it's like make it easy, like choose a gym that like is like within your natural routine. Like maybe you're like it's by your office or like it's on your way home. Like even better, like like make
Mhm.
it make it easy. Like it's just like, oh gosh, my gym is like 4 miles away. It's like you're never gonna go. Like
Yeah,
so
totally. Someplace close by seems like almost the number one key for a lot of people. And then the close second, or maybe tie for number one, is like someplace that has things that you think are fun, like that
totally.
it's enjoyable. Maybe your thing
Yeah,
is running on the treadmill, that's great. But for a lot of other people, it's more going to be like a yoga or a dance class or a Zumba class or something that's fun or like a trainer that inspires you or, yeah. And where you can see other people like yourself in that gym, I think, not just the people that you like want to be like or but like people that look like you and feel like you and have your energy at that place at the gym. Yeah.
exactly. That's cool. Um, Yeah, I'd love to talk about like your experiences and like you said you were gym shopping for a little while. Like what were some of your other experiences trying out different things and like
Yeah.
seeing what worked for you and what didn't?
um I think
Or
I just had to keep those two things in mind, kind of like what I was saying. I mean, I do love trying someplace before I commit to it. I really like to know the philosophy and like ethos behind a place before I join it. And I think you can kind of like do that with research, but you can also kind of I did that kind of with research and just by showing up and feeling the experience. And if there's trainers there that are like pumped and excited and creating community and like inspiring me to be strong and, posting things on social media about like being fit and being strong and like trying your hardest versus having it all focused on outward appearance and like
yeah,
numbers on a scale. And
exactly.
that's what I didn't want. And so I think that was the biggest thing was, trying and finding that and finding something that fit with that.
Yep, exactly. There's been like a lot of damage on that and it's a double-edged sword. I think it does work for some people to like measure your results of like, like
Right.
measuring like your biceps and like you're doing arm work every week and you get to see like, oh gosh, I'm actually growing. Or like sometimes when I'm taking cleanses or like, ooh, like I'm gonna work out a little bit more for the next 2 weeks. Like I think it is fun and I think it can be great to take a before and after photo to just like, oh, I can see like a little bit more definition there or, but really focusing more on how you want to feel. Because it can be a trap. Like it happens to me often. Like weight loss can be a side effect of some of the work I do, but I don't like to advertise that. And I really like to focus on like, like, oh, I just want to lose 15 pounds. It's like, okay, well, let's talk about why that's a goal and what your relationship with yourself is once you lose those 15 pounds. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's the trap. It's the if then. So if I lose 15 pounds, then I will be able to have like a loving relationship with myself. I'll have more confidence. It's like,
Yeah.
well, start practicing those things now. So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
completely backwards in thinking. And unfortunately, our society does perpetuate this, like, ooh, like, look how good my butt is. And, like, it's like I have booty goals too, because, like, I've thrown out my back twice. And so I'm like, this is for my back. It's true though. Like, doing like desk work. Sometimes I'll like squeeze my glutes. So I'm like typing on my computer and I'm like,
Awesome.
because it's
Awesome.
true, like your low back can get it can strengthen your low back if you're like
Yeah.
engaging like so it's important
I'm
for
doing
me
it
to
now
like
too.
move my glutes and like my obliques because I want to support my back because I do work on my website and my computer and like I'm running a business and unfortunately I office work is part of the package. So yeah, I love that. I love to like really focus on is that some of the work you do where you get to like as a health coach like when a client
Yeah.
tells you a weight loss goal, how would you interact with them?
Yeah, exactly like what you said. Like I had a client recently actually that the main thing, her main goal was weight loss. And I was actually happy. And it's always a discussion. I always ultimately, it's up to the client. But, I said, okay, we could do, measurements. We could take your weight now and take it later. And that can give us information about, which direction you're going. But she really didn't want to do that because she kind of knew herself and she knew that she would
Mm-hmm.
be too into the numbers and too obsessing
Totally.
about the numbers over how she was feeling and just what she was doing. And so I supported completely her decision to, we didn't have a starting weight or an ending weight. It was just she kind of wanted to have weight loss, but then really it moved into like, okay, well, then what are the things that are going to get us there? And how are you actually trying to feel? And we also had that exact same moment, like you were talking about, where she was like, well, yeah, I think once I try this for 3 months, if I haven't lost any weight, then I guess I'll just go ahead and accept myself how I am. And then she like immediately caught herself and was like, or I think we both were like, or at the same time. She was like, or I can just do it now. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, people feel so much better when they're eating right and sleeping and drinking water and
Yes.
being physically active. And if their weight goes down, which it often does when they're doing that, then like great. But I don't like that to be the main focus. I like it
Right.
to be how they feel and all those healthy things that they're doing to like build up their vital energy and increase their life span and all of that.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. You know, we're both trained as health coaches, which we like look at the whole person. So it's like, it's like their before and after photos, like they're working with you. Maybe they're drinking more water, which is why like weighing yourself maybe isn't like, maybe they were like chronically dehydrated before they came to you. Now they're drinking like
So many people.
2, 3 liters a day, which is like, that's where I'm at. I feel good about that. And, you can, that's not something that's going to show up on the scale. Their before and after photo, like their eyes will be less dark if you're like including more whole foods and more sleep, more water, like their skin complexion is going to change. And like those are not measured by numbers. So,
Mm-hmm.
and truly on the like how I feel, right? So they come to you before feeling like defeated, I need to be a certain way, having like guilt and shame because their ideal may be unrealistic and it's like so there's like shame and guilt that they're not there. And so, it's an awful cycle and I love to just bring people into my little love sphere and like work with them on that and soften that. And it's huge. There's a lot of violent media and like it's a perpetuating cycle. And so more conversations like this with women that like please viewers, if you're catching the replay, like please share this with your female friends. Like these are
Mm-hmm.
important conversations we need to be having.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to jump into one of our other topics. So, you were telling me a little bit about your Spirit Weavers gathering, and just like for those of you who aren't local and haven't heard about it, tell us a little bit about that. And like, this
Yeah.
is a very like
You want
feminine,
to just
positive interview. So like, it was really centered for women, was it not?
Yes, it's for women, and by that they mean inclusively for women, so certainly trans women or anyone that's female identified. It's a gathering in Cave Junction in southern Oregon, over 2 weekends. So it just occurred, and then it'll be happening again next year. And it was really beautiful. It's this gathering of women on a piece of land near a river in southern Oregon. They really create a sacred space for about 5 days, and the intention is to reconnect with kind of the sacred feminine and like ancestral ways, like ancestral feminine ways.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just beautiful. There was a lot of ceremony. I got to do a cacao ceremony. I learned how to weave. I learned how to mend things. Like I made a flower crown. Like it was really, really fun. And I got to like be with these women and we're just camping on the land. And I think I was telling you there was this river on the land that was absolutely beautiful. And at a couple different points, you could just like swim naked in the river. And at the end, like a ton of women, there's like 800 women. At the end, tons of us got naked and went swimming in the river. And it was so fun. And it's experiences like that, though, where like one, just to feel that joy, like being in your own body. I think for me to feel that joy being in my own body, that helps me with my mindset and with my self-love to be like, to have that experience and like feel that joy naked with nature. And it also was beautiful because it was wonderful to look out at all these different women. They were all beautiful and there were all different shapes and sizes and their bodies all looked different and every single one of them was beautiful. And it was a wonderful reminder because I think sometimes we think in our heads that like everyone else has these like model bodies that are on the front of magazines or whatever, and that we're the only one that doesn't, and you know, or yeah, but instead it was just like all shapes and sizes, all beautiful. And that's the other beautiful key too, I think, is you realize when you stop judging other people, you stop judging yourself, and vice versa. Like when you stop judging yourself, you also stop judging other people. Yeah, and so it was just like this really beautiful experience.
Absolutely. I mean, that's so wise. Like, what an incredible experience. And you know, like, what would you tell some women who, you know, are probably watching this live or on the replay, and it's like, oh gosh, like, I I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't be like swimming in a naked, like, with other women in a river. What would you tell them?
Yeah, well, you probably don't know what you're going to do until you get there. It's a pretty powerful, like, collective energy.
Yeah.
And not everyone was, so, you know, you don't have to always do what you're comfortable with. Um, but I think the ticket, or like, yeah, it really is this like powerful collective energy. And I think seeing other women take joy in their bodies allowed me to more easily take joy in my body and not be concerned with like my flaws. And I wonder how many times I'll air quote. I really like air quoting flaws, whatever, like the different things about my body.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think it made me think about, so I guess, yeah, so I guess that's what I would tell people is what I would tell people is to surround yourself with a community of people that are celebrating their bodies instead of judging them.
Yeah.
And so whether that's, and that gets you one step closer, like that helps to normalize it for you. Cause that's the whole problem, right? We've been brainwashed since we were little from looking at magazines and TV and movies and everything about like what bodies need to look like. And so now it's like we're re-brainwashing ourselves or putting in the actual normal input of like, oh no, this is what naked women's bodies looks like and they're beautiful. Or you know, on Instagram and different social media, there's like wonderful body positivity, and I love looking at those. They come up on in my feed every day with a woman that's like, look at my beautiful cellulite, or like, look at these beautiful natural belly rolls. Like, and when you get that input, that starts to normalize it more. And then you can go swimming naked in the river with women.
I love it. I love it. Such good tips. I remember hearing on a interview I was listening to, they were talking about surveying women with like this big dove billboard. You know how like the dove is like really just like, you know, like all these different body types and diversity, and they interviewed a lot of women, and most women said they were really uncomfortable seeing it. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. You know, it's like, you know, it's not what we normally see, especially on a billboard, especially like in media. And you know, the consistent message that they saw was like, I am for this, and then here came in the guilt, right? Like, I want to be for this, and it makes me really uncomfortable. It's like,
Right.
I don't think it's right that this is up. It's like, well, why not? And so like there begins the dialogue to talk about like all of our past programming and like seeing something new and like that incongruency between what you would like your values to be and then when the opportunity arises, you're like, but all my programming has told me otherwise. So you bring up such a fantastic point about like continuing to normalize it and bring it further into your life. Having those conversations, surrounding yourself with that image and images, because nowadays we have more images coming at us than any other, like in any other period of history. Like no human has seen as many images as we do just in our daily lives. So pretty interesting to like be on this pilgrimage really to like undo this work.
Yeah. And another thing I'll mention, because I think this plays into it here, is when we're talking about self-talk, like, be aware of what you say when you're around your friends, because when
Yes.
you judge yourself in front of your friends, you're also kind of judging them, or you're making it easier for them to judge yourselves when you are like, oh, my ass is so fat or whatever, like that indirectly, that's sending a message to them that it's unacceptable, right? So
Right.
especially then around your family and especially around kids, right? Like little girls
Yeah.
that are growing up. It's so important because it's been interesting for me, even as an adult woman, when I hear some of my older female family members judging themselves, like now it's about wrinkles or anything, I'll be like, well, but what are you telling me? And I will actually say that. I'll be like, well, when you say that about yourself, you're telling me that it's not okay to have wrinkles too. And, it's okay. It's just a normal part of getting older, right? And
Yeah.
it kind of reframes it so that self-talk really affects us and it affects other people too.
Yeah. I love it. I like
Right.
the comment your sister put on there.
Yeah. We're on the same page.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, children especially, like they look at us to like set the tone for the future and like they're making up their minds based off of like I have my own child now and like that has been a huge motivator and like my own self-worth and self-growth is like who do I want to be so that he sees like what is possible for women, what is possible for female entrepreneurs, like how do I interact with my food, my body, like how am I celebrating his body and his like, dancing and like singing and like I need to model that the standard is high and he like learns to let women in his life that like model those healthy behaviors. So just for the women and like men out there who are watching the live and the replay, like if you have children in your life, like you are so blessed and lucky to be teaching them how to interact with the world and like give them really great principles and like know what to expect and you're essentially investing in the future. So pretty special.
Yeah.
So I love it. I love it. Well, gosh, we've talked about so much during this interview. It's a juicy one.
Yeah.
Do you have any other little last minute tidbits that we didn't get to talk about before we
I don't
wrap?
think, well, the one other thing I want to say, and I
Yeah.
know we kind of mentioned it before too, is just to acknowledge, like, I think we're having this conversation about body image and how we're perceived and joining gyms and everything. And our experiences have obviously been as like white women that
Yep.
probably are perceived as like fairly fit or like on the slender side from like people out, outside of us. And so, yeah, I think it's just nice to like acknowledge that like our experiences are valid and there are like so many other experiences out there that make it probably even more complicated and more challenging. So, yeah, I just want to give a shout out to
Totally.
that.
Yeah, it's like it's a common theme, but like don't assume. Like you don't know what is really going on in someone else's world and like Yep. I
Yeah.
mean, Caitlin and I were
Yeah.
talking a little bit
Everybody
about
has
this.
body issues,
Yeah.
and well, I don't want to say everybody. Everybody can have body issues,
Yeah.
um, and I think how we're treated in the world can be still be different from how we're perceived from the outside. So I just want to, yeah, throw that out there that I think I've had my experiences, and I don't doubt that I've still been privileged as I've had those experiences.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Um, I love it. I
Yeah.
Everyone's got something, and like everyone is like, like even the like most fit, amazing people, like they're still working on their stuff, and like, like you don't get to see a sign on their chest saying like I'm harder on myself than anyone else. Like even if they're like killing it. So like don't think because someone looks a certain way or because they don't, like you don't even know the whole story, So um, if I can just there's so many great tips in this video, but if I could just like give one thing, it's like don't assume and like set that intention to just like ask people how they're doing and like hear them if they say an answer that isn't like, oh, I'm great. It's like I'm having a tough time, it's like they choose to be vulnerable, like really hold space for that. And yeah, I love it. I've been doing some fitness classes with other women, and typically in the past I've worked out solo. And I'm an introvert and I like to do things by myself. Obviously I work by myself and I work with my clients, but um, working it with a group has given me further insight into the beginner mindset, which is, as a beginner, you are you're just open. You're open to what it looks like. You're like, well, like you're curious and playful and it's like it's fun and like it's humble. And so like having that mindset has been challenging because I'm used to being like, I've been doing things for a certain while, like I'm taking a new yoga class, which is very challenging. And I've been taking yoga for 4 years and it's like every time I go, completely demolishes my ego and like it feels like my first day of yoga. Like it's hard and like that's the humbling part is like, oh wow, like I'm learning that the back of my body is weaker than the front. And so like I look like I'm fit, but I'm struggling to do like handstands and more advanced movements because my body is imbalanced. So like I have a thin athletic figure and like people don't assume that like I'm still overcoming like body issues from my pregnancy. My stomach skin is coming back to normal and like you wouldn't know though. It's like you wouldn't know that I'm like inside having such a hard time with like a part of my body that's weaker, which is like my back versus my front, which is stronger and like you never know. And like everyone has their own challenge and like that's why working out can be so cathartic and freeing and such an amazing release because you get to work through those mental barriers, you come up butt up against yourself and like your resistance and you get to sweat through it and work through it and push past it. And so um, for all those watching, like just know most people, I don't want to say everyone, you're right, Caitlin, like most people do have body images or body image dysmorphia, I guess is the term, like what they see doesn't match like how they feel about themselves. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, everyone's on a journey. That's
Yeah.
what really
Yeah.
grounds
Exactly.
me is like everyone's learning and everyone's on a journey. And at
Yeah.
some point we all started as beginners. So
Yeah.
just remember that.
Totally. And I might, my, like challenge might be for people that are being physically active, um, which would be good if all of us were being physically
Yeah.
active, to try doing it from a place of curiosity with like, how does this feel for my body? Like, what can my body do? Like, wow, my body can lift this much weight, or like, wow, my body can walk this long, or wow, my body can like jog this long, instead of just being like, must do this to lose weight, like, because that's not much of a motivator. So no wonder we don't really like working out. I don't even like calling it working out. I like calling it physical activity because that's what it is, and it feeds my body and it
Yeah.
feels good if I'm in touch with that instead of like
Exactly.
drilling myself or having some other motivator that isn't actually that motivating or inspiring.
Yeah. 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 I love that. It's that taps into the inner child work and like how what would happen if you operated out of like curiosity? Like,
Mhm.
I wonder if I can like do a plank and like hold one arm up and like, ooh, I'm like wobbly. Like this is kind of fun. Like this is
Yeah.
hard. Like, like
Yeah.
mix it up because like everyone's
Yeah.
had that experience where like, and it's so disheartening, right? It's kind of like the programming, right? Like we've all had negative experiences working out or physical activity, it's like think about the gym teacher who's like run around in the circle till you puke. And you just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like
Yeah.
that's awful, and
Yeah.
so like people are like, well, that's not healthy. I don't like that. That's like terrible. I never want to do that again, and
Right.
so um there's so many different ways to move the body, like dance, like try new things.
Fun.
It's
Feel
so much fun.
good.
So
Yeah. Try new things. Yay.
play.
Yeah.
Um well, thanks guys. Thanks so much for watching. Caitlin, what's going on in your world as an amazing business owner? And tell us a little bit about where people can find you and what's going on in your business.
Yeah. Okay. So people can find me at my website, which is caitlinjarvis.com,
Okay.
CaitlinJarvis, caitlinjarvis.com. You can also, click here, friend me. You can see on my personal page, my business page, that's just called Caitlin Jarvis, health coach and medical intuitive. And that's what I do. So I provide health coaching. I have this healthcare background as a registered nurse and nurse practitioner. So I'm switching roles into the role of healthcare and medical intuitive, but I'm bringing all those skills and like knowledge and experience with me. So I start with a medical intuitive session, which is just where I use my strong
Okay.
intuition to kind of provide people with information about their health. It's very holistic, so it's physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual. And then we follow that up with health coaching, so I can help people make sustainable behavior changes, very much like mind, body, spirit. It's very holistic. Um, and yeah, and I have a launch special right now that's still going on. It's actually 70% off my packages. So it's a really, really good deal. You can reach out to me here. You can go on my website and email me, any of the above. And I do have a special freebie for anyone that signs up before Sunday night at midnight. There's a special freebie that has to do with some basics that have come through for most people during my intuitive session. So it's good,
Great.
juicy, foundational stuff.
Love
So
it.
anyways, that's the freebie. And yeah, reach out if you have any
Yes.
questions. Thank you for having me. This was super fun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you guys all for watching. Please share with a friend if you found value and maybe you laughed, maybe you got a little misty-eyed. We were talking about image and insecurity, whatever it was. Please share with a friend. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for all of your knowledge and your heart. I love how authentic you are. And for those of you interested in some of Caitlin's specials, Caitlin and I have been working together for 5 months. Gosh. I am her mindset and nutrition coach. So I've been working with health coaching with her and mindset and teaching her how to cook. And I've really got to know her. And she's a very good friend of mine now. And she's just so authentic and she's so wise.
My
And has a
cooking
lot
game
of.
is so much more on point than my nutrition game.
Yes.
More point.
Yes. I'm so proud of you. Well,
Thank
take
you.
it, straight from the chef's mouth. Like, she's amazing. Like, you are getting a
Oh,
screaming deal here. It's 70% off. And, like, please reach out to her. All right. Well, thank you guys. Post in the comments if you're watching the replay. And I can't wait to see you next week for Talk with Tigress. See you guys.
thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.